Hey everybody, Dr. Phil here. This is going to be a video on government policy and international trade in the wider context of international business. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So this a little bit of introduction here. So free trade. Think of this as the absence of barriers to the free flow of goods and services between countries. Government does not attempt to restrict what its citizens can buy from another country or what they can sell to another country. While many nations are nominally committed to free trade, they tend to intervene in international trade to protect the interests of politically important groups, to promote the interests of key domestic producers, or for reasons of national security. We're also relevant to this, indeed germane to this, is what we call the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, typically abbreviated GATT. This is an international treaty that committed signatories to lowering barriers to the free flow of goods across national borders, and it was succeeded by the WTO, the World Trade Organization. So the seven main instruments of trade policy. We have tariffs, subsidies, import quotas, voluntary export restraints, local content requirements, administrative policies, and anti-dumping duties. There's also a rise in non-tariff barriers, so things like subsidies, quotas, voluntary export restraints, and anti-dumping duties. So tariffs, think of this as the tax levied on imports that effectively raises the cost of imported products relative to domestic products. Import tariffs are taxes levied on imports. Specific tariffs are levied as a fixed charge for each unit of an imported good. And then what we call ad valorem is levied as a proportion of the value of an imported good. Ad valorem just means value-based. So tariffs produce government revenues. They provide protection to domestic producers against foreign competitors by increasing the cost of imported foreign goods. They cause consumers to pay more for certain inputs. Tariffs are generally pro-producer and anti-consumer. Import tariffs reduce the overall efficiency of the world economy. Export tariffs are taxes placed on the export of a good. The goal is to discriminate against exporting to ensure supply. An export ban is a policy that partially or entirely restricts the export of a good. A ban of exports of US crude oil, for example, in 1975, to ensure sufficient supply of domestic oil here at home. A subsidy is a government payment to a domestic producer. Subsidies help domestic producers compete against low-cost foreign importers and also gain export markets. Consumers, individuals and corporations, typically absorb the cost of subsidies. This can be debatable if subsidies generate worthwhile national benefits. So sometimes they can be good for the sort of the national interest. An import quota is a direct restriction on the quantity of some good that may be imported into a country. A tariff rate quota is a hybrid of a quota and a tariff. A lower tariff is applied to imports within the quota than those that go, sort of over the quota. A voluntary export restraint, sometimes we abbreviate that VER, is a quota on trade imposed by the exporting country, typically at the request of the importing country's government. And a quota rent is extra profit that producers make when supply is artificially limited by means of an import quota. LCRs, local content requirements. So these demand that some specific fraction of a good be produced domestically. It could be, specified or enunciated, enumerated in physical terms or in value terms. Local content requirements benefit domestic producers and jobs, but consumers can face higher prices as a result. Administrative trade policies are bureaucratic rules designed to make it difficult for imports to enter a certain country. Governments of all types sometimes use informal or administrative policies to restrict imports and boost exports. Dumping is selling goods in a foreign market below their cost of production or below their fair market value. Anti-dumping policies punish foreign firms that engage in dumping, thus protecting domestic producers from unfair foreign competition. This can of course vary from country to country. US firms that believe a foreign firm is dumping can file a complaint with two government agencies, the Commerce Department and the International Trade Commission, ITC. If the complaint has merit, anti-dumping duties, also known as countervailing duties, may be imposed. Now what about the case for government intervention? So political arguments are protecting the interests of certain groups within a nation, normally producers, often at the expense of other groups, normally consumers. It's also achieving some political objectives such as protecting the environment or human rights. An economic environment can be boosting the overall wealth of a nation to the benefit of both producers and also, of course, consumers. And political arguments for intervention. It can protect jobs and industries. It can protect national security, maybe used as retaliating. If it's used intervention as a bargaining tool and force trading partners to kind of play by the rules, so to speak. However, government intervention can also be a risky strategy. So what about political arguments for intervention? So it may further government foreign policy objectives. It could grant preferential trade terms to a country it wants to build relations with. And it can also pressure or potentially punish rogue states. Um, another effect is it might actually protect or help to protect human rights. So what about economic arguments for intervention? We have what we call the infant industry arguments. An industry should be protected until it can develop and be viable and competitive internationally. This argument has been criticized because it's useless unless it makes the industry more efficient, which that's true. If a country has the potential to develop a viable competitive position, its firms should be capable of raising necessary funds. So again, you can sort of make a case, an economic case, a policy case, legislative case, for and against the sort of the infant industry arguments. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in another video. Take care.